We're diving into Overreaction Tuesday. Don't worry, the video's coming. We're still working on it. And we also got, you have to add the degenerate thing into a Friday segment. You have to. You can't not add, I'm a degenerate. Same, Mike. Same. We are all one. Me, you, the same. Appreciate you. I think I'm going to have an extra bourbon with them when the next time we have dinner or something and just say, hey, Mike, I just want you to know this one feels like I'm closer to you now, just because I know, We're diving into Overreaction Tuesday. I'm excited for him. Nick, I know you tossed it up. I know we got yours. I know we got some of the fans, some of the viewers. Maybe we'll get a couple of live ones too. I'll toss it to you, Nick. Overreaction Tuesday, week 11. Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. Plenty going on here. I'm excited for it. What do we got?
Yeah, let's start off the way we started off the show. Without Alex Highsmith, Lamar Jackson will go off on the ground against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No chance. It is not an overreaction. It is not an overreaction. I will say that. It is not an overreaction. But statistics say, history tells you that is not going to be the case for Lamar Jackson and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has some success, more success than most, but not Lamar Jackson level success. They will rely heavily on Derrick Henry in this ball game. I bet you they'd try to throw Deontay Johnson a football, which we didn't talk about that. Totally slipped my mind when we were going through this podcast, but Mike Tomlin's words on Deontay Johnson were less than flattering. They were not the greatest. It seemed very much so as a brush by of, Dante Jackson is leading our team in interceptions, and Deontay Johnson is on the Baltimore Ravens, which we didn't trade him to, doing very little. I don't know if the Steelers will win this game. I will make that prediction on Friday. I do not know if Lamar Jackson is going to win his third MVP. If I had to guess, probably. What I do know is the Pittsburgh Steelers tend to shut this guy down. Is it an overreaction? No. Anything is possible on any Sunday with Lamar Jackson. Is it likely? Also no, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they tend to have Lamar Jackson's number, and I got to imagine they're going to have it again this week at home with a rocking crowd and a couple of linebackers that'll be filling in for Alex Highsmith that I think are better than those who filled in for Alex Highsmith in the past.
Let's check over to the offensive side of the football, where I'm going to say George Pickens is a top 5 receiver in the NFL with Russell Wilson at the quarterback position.
Oh, I do also want to mention because it popped in my head as you were saying this, Patrick Queen. Don't forget Patrick Queen will be in the middle, probably spying Lamar Jackson, and you got to think he is going to try to win that battle at any cost. Now, George Pickens, top 5. Justin Jefferson is number 1, remains number 1. This season, A.J. Brown's got to be up there. He remains an absolute freak of nature. Amon St. Brown's got to be up there. He remains an absolute freak of nature. Who else is having like those crazy seasons? Is anybody else having those crazy off the wall, just can't stop them seasons? Jamar Chase should be up there.
Terry McLaurin is up there as well. He's 3rd right now in the NFL in receiving yards.
Terry McLaurin just played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and George Pickens outplayed him. George Pickens outplayed him. It wasn't like, Terry McLaurin had a good game. George Pickens had a better game. And in moments where the Steelers offense looked like the Steelers offense stunk, George Pickens did wild things to say, yeah, maybe right now we stink, but I'm going to get 30 yards on this play because that's just who I am. He literally would jump up and make a ridiculous catch, then jump up and stiff arm somebody and not go anywhere, and then jump up and do something crazy, like not really hurdle somebody, but just kind of gain 3 more yards on already a 25-yard catch after he just broke 2 tackles. George Pickens outplayed him. I would say yes. I got a hard time saying that's an overreaction. Maybe it's walking the line. Maybe there could be 5 guys that you can name before George Pickens. But I think there's an argument to be made for every single one of them with George. He's open all the time. He has a catch radius that is unbeatable. He adjusts his body better than literally anybody in the NFL. He is doing things and coming up with plays in crucial moments. I mean, how is that an overreaction? I don't think it is an overreaction. I think it's very hard to say that's an overreaction right now.
This might make you more confident. He's currently 9th in the NFL in receiving yards. And of course, he's only played 3 of those 9 games with Russell Wilson. So that's the caveat. Not is he just based on what you've seen, but with Russell Wilson, does it make him a top 5? I think it does. And the one other weird thing I do want to bring up is Darnell Mooney is 6th in the NFL in receiving yards. And I just think that's very interesting.
Shout out Kirk Cousins, bro. Shout out Kirk Cousins. No, I think he's there. I don't think that's an overreaction. And yet you say that, that also includes a Denver Broncos game where he finished with like 40 yards, would have had like 175 if penalties weren't called on the Pittsburgh Steelers, would have another touchdown this season if penalties weren't called, would have 2, potentially 3 more touchdowns this season if penalties weren't called on crazy plays by him. I mean, yeah. The top 5 is a very realistic number for him.
All right, I got one more for you. Van Jefferson will have less than 5 catches the rest of this season due to the arrival of Mike Williams.
Probably. I think you're going 3 for 3 here on not overreactions. Less than 5 catches. What's he at right now? How many is he? That's so many.
He has 14 catches. He has 23 targets through the first 9 games.
He gets targeted a lot, but you got to imagine that's going away. He's coming off the field. Mike Williams is going on the field. Van Jefferson's going to become the number 4. I don't think you could say. I mean, there were times where Cordero Patterson was lining up as a wide receiver yesterday. I would guess that happens more than Van Jefferson gets moved around in any capacity moving forward. I could see Van Jefferson becoming the Miles Boykin, Gunnar Olszewski, you're just out there to block, Allen Robinson, style. 14 is a lot of catches. It might be technically an overreaction that, to say, oh, he's going to get less than, what are we smoking here? He had 14. He had 14 through 11 weeks. There's 8 games left, and they just added a guy to replace him. I don't think that's an overreaction. I think it should be, but I don't think it is. I don't think that's an overreaction. Guys, there is no better place to be during football season than at a Pittsburgh Steelers game. And now Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I, as everybody knows, am going to see Creed in a couple of weeks, and it was effortless finding my tickets on Game Time. Why? Because they lay everything out for you. All-in pricing shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. Seat views means that you get to see a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you ever buy the tickets. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
All right, let's jump over to the listener inquiries. Daniel says Broderick Jones was the best player from the Steelers' offensive line this Sunday.
That is an overreaction. Woo! My friend, is an overreaction. I'll say he had a much better game than he has had in games past, but it was still not a good game. There was still like quite a few, and just because he didn't get called for a penalty, at least that I believe, doesn't mean that it was a good game. I still think Dan Moore was the best offensive lineman that they had on Sunday. Just Isaac Seumalo struggled. Zach Frazier struggled. Mason McCormick. I mean, the interior just got beat up. They definitely got beat up. I think it would be Dan Moore. I think it'd be a close call. I'll say this. That is borderline not an overreaction. I will say it is an overreaction because, first off, I don't think anybody on that offensive line played well or was good or should be considered the best. I think they all stunk is a better way to word it. But I would say Dan Moore was still the best. The performed the least sucky in week 10 against the Commanders.
Let's go over to AJ, who says James Pierre will end up being the starter with Dante Jackson out. He will play better than Joey Porter Jr. for the rest of this season and will have a game-sealing interception in the Super Bowl. Also, any update on Cole Holcomb and is Najee staying in Pittsburgh? AJ brought the heat.
AJ, man, first off, that's an overreaction that makes me just, I appreciate all you guys. You guys are so awesome. That is, my friend, an overreaction. That is shout out to James Pierre's helmet, man. But James Pierre's head is not always going to be in the way. Sometimes he's going to have to put another body part out there to say, this is what's going to stop this pass. It's not going to be the back of my forehead. I would say that's an overreaction. I would say it's an I look at James is a great guy. James is a super nice dude who works his butt off. He's an undrafted guy who came from a really tough part of Florida, and he made it. He made it out the gutter and got to the NFL. And you know, I've seen him shed a tear talking about his come up and coming from the place that he has come from growing up. And that is so awesome to hear. Like he is a story you root for. I was bummed out when the Steelers cut him because I thought he's a valuable special teamer and he deserves a job somewhere. And he probably won't get a job somewhere else because they won't view him as a good special teamer. They'll want him to be a corner too. In Pittsburgh, you can be a good special teamer and that adds value. That being said, he is a good special teamer and a corner that ran into the ball with the back of his head against the Commanders to win a game. And that is commendable. But that might be the peak of James Pierre's season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like it. Let's go to Deadpan Duke, who says the Steelers will not win a playoff game if Alex Highsmith doesn't return for the season. Now, obviously, we know he's not out for the season, but I think this opens up a larger conversation of if the Steelers do lose one of Highsmith or Watt, does that make them unable and incapable of winning a playoff game this season?
I think that is an overreaction right now just because we haven't seen Preston Smith yet. We just haven't. We don't know what Preston Smith is going to bring in a larger role. And until we do, that has to be an overreaction. Only on a technicality. You know, we could find out Preston Smith ain't that guy. But Preston Smith has looked like that guy for a long time in the NFL. It's not like Preston Smith is coming in here, oh, you got a guy who was the third stringer in Green Bay for a 7th-round pick. Let's see what happens. Oh, you got a guy who started last season for the Green Bay Packers, but this season was on the couch and came over here like a Miles Jack. No, Preston Smith was starting 9 games on a winning football team for Green Bay and had 2 sacks and then added a 3rd one in his debut with the Steelers. So maybe Preston Smith is good, and maybe Preston Smith can keep that level of intensity near Alex Highsmith level. I don't know if it's going to get Alex Highsmith level, but near. So I would say this is an overreaction because we don't know what Preston Smith and Nick Herbig could bring. I will say that if TJ goes down, that's a different conversation, but only because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've never shown they could win without TJ Watt.
Fair enough. We got a couple of overreactions in the comment section here. Let's start with Marlon Lewis, who says, Overreaction Tuesday, we're beating the Chiefs on Christmas by 2 scores.
Overreaction Tuesday, my friend. Overreaction Tuesday. That is an overreaction. There's no chance that the Pittsburgh, I mean, there is. Never say never. Never say never. But it is hard to believe the Kansas City Chiefs are going to play a game on Christmas, spend their holiday in Pittsburgh in the snow with eating Permani sandwiches with Taylor Swift in the booth, and they're going to lose by 2 touchdowns. That just doesn't seem likely. The Chiefs don't lose by 2 touchdowns. That's an overreaction. It's an overreaction, my friend.
They don't lose by 2 touchdowns. They also haven't lost. So there's that as well.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Right now, anything considering a loss is an overreaction.
Speaking of haven't lost, let's go to Josh's overreaction to close out this segment. It says, Overreaction Tuesday. We are going to win out the regular season and get the number 1 seed, which would be a 15-2 record, an undefeated AFC North schedule, and a win on Christmas against the Chiefs, not to mention a win over your cross-state rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles.
It seems to be the only thing that could come out of my mouth right now. Does Russell Wilson win MVP if the Pittsburgh Steelers win out?
Potentially, yeah. Because at that point you have 2 wins over MVP candidate Lamar, and you have a big Christmas Day victory over Patrick Mahomes. If they go 15-2, I would think. I mean, maybe not Russell Wilson.
The Chiefs as the number 1.
It maybe not Russell Wilson. Is TJ Watt the MVP if they do that?
Potentially. I mean, it's a quarterback award. It's a quarterback award, but I agree. It would depend. Could the finalist be Russell Wilson and TJ Watt? Could they be 1-2?
I don't think people can blindly ignore the fact that most valuable players shouldn't have 2 players that are both finalists.
I mean, if this scenario happened, I think you could probably make an argument that everybody, George Pickens is in there, Najee Harris sneaks his way into there, maybe Cam Hayward is in there somewhere on the ballot. Ben Skoranek is on there. You throw Money Boz in there, just feels like there's got to be something going on. This is clearly an overreaction. We knew this was going to be an overreaction. This is a good one. I think if they do, overreaction to say Russell Wilson, like 2nd best quarterback in the NFL right now.
If they go to, if he would be undefeated at what, 11-0 on the season, if that's the case. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. So you're thinking Patrick Mahomes loses another one besides Christmas Day. That alone might be the overreaction.
That's true.
That alone, either way, overreaction. That's a good one.
That's a wrap for Overreaction Tuesday then.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. These are a blast. And who had the absolutely fantastic comment before I?
That was AJ.
AJ, man, that was fantastic, brother. That was so awesome. I appreciate it so much.